everyone. I'm just looking at the stream and I want to make sure that everything is working because I'm not seeing like an actual screen. So let me just, there we go. Okay, yeah, it's all good. Thank you for your patience. I just like to make sure that everything's working because I'm not seeing it on my like YouTube thing that I get to see, and I was just like, but everything else is showing that it's excellent, and I'm just like, oh no. It's really stressful when you're live streaming. You've got all these monitors going and all these different windows going, and then you think you're maybe gonna have like that there's maybe some technical issues. It's actually really stressful. Anyhow, welcome to Woolen Spinning. Welcome to episode 287. I think it's episode 287, yes. My name's Rachel. I can be found pretty much everywhere as Woolen Spinning. On Ravelry, I am still Welford Pearls because that is my like username versus the podcast. Yeah, we come here to talk all about yarn and spinning and hand spinning and making yarn and using our yarn and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that you find something here that you enjoy and that you like and that is that you feel welcome. I am wearing Poet by Sari Nordlund. She is one of my absolute most favorite designers. I just love her aesthetic. I love her stuff. I think she is just so talented. She has such great patterns. Anyhow, this is Poet by her. And I knit this in, it's not hand spun. Usually I try to wear something hand spun. And what happened, we're having unseasonably warm weather right now. We broke highs on the weekend that were like, the last documented high was like 1900 or something. So not good. And we had a crazy weekend. We've had a crazy couple of weeks, and it'll slow down and stop on Sunday and we'll get a break and all that kind of stuff. But it's just kind of this last little sprint to the finish line. Anyways, I was putting on what I was going to wear for the show today, and I was going to wear my Gentle Morning because I haven't worn it on the show for a long time. And I thought, just kind of, it'd be a great sweater to wear. It's 100% hand spun. It's out of my Chevy, and it's in the intro credits that'll play in just a moment. And I put it on and I was like, oh, I'm so hot. So I had to take it off, totally rejig everything. So I was going through my closet and I found this, and I haven't really worn it a lot since I made it. After I cast it off and I tried it on for photos and whatnot, I just felt like it was a bit tight and a bit small. But it's funny because it's actually kind of filled a little gap in my wardrobe of just kind of a light summer top. So this is Swan's Island Natural Colors collection in fingering, and this is in the Golden Rod colorway, and this yarn has actually since been discontinued. And this is part of their line of yarns that they do that are like the eco-friendly superwash yarns. So this is one of those, and I got it on a discount table kind of thing at my local yarn shop. And I have worn this a little bit, not a ton, but I have worn it a little bit. And I've kind of found my way of being able to wear it and not feeling like it's too tight. But if I were to make it again, I would definitely go up a size. And it only used 866 yards of yarn or 792 meters. So definitely something that like you don't need an unbelievable amount of yardage. The lace obviously helps, your yarn tends to go a little bit further. And yeah, there's not a ton of positive. This is very much a zero ease sweater the way that I knit it. And I only used 1.65 skeins. I know that sounds very accurate. It is because I weighed it and what was left because I wanted an accurate so that I could maybe make it again. One of the versions that Sari made that's modeled, I think it was the one that was in Lane magazine, maybe, don't quote me. It was quite rustic, and it was out of a gray kind of homespun, woolen spun type yarn. And I've always in the back of my mind had this idea of doing it again in my hand spun and something that was a little bit a little bit more rustic. I've always kind of wanted to do that, and I just obviously haven't gotten to it yet, but one day. So thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for the kind comments. There's a couple of really nice comments about the sweater in the in the show, in the chat. So thank you so much, you guys. Welcome everybody in chat. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to be here and to talk with me. I really appreciate it. I have to watch the time today because the kids are at a camp. It's a 2-hour soccer camp and I have to pick them up. So the show is sort of inadvertently, without meaning to, just gotten longer and longer and longer. But today we're going to have to sort of keep it a little bit under control. Which I know is difficult sometimes. It's easy to say that. It's like, oh yeah, we'll totally keep it under control. And then, you know, the show happens. So for the next 2 years, we're looking at Sarah Anderson's book, The Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs. We'll be working through that book together as a community. So anybody who wants to join in, you are more than welcome. You have not missed so much that you can't not join in now. There's 3 places for you to be able to engage with that. Spinning Pearls, which is released on Sundays, the Wool Circle, and Spinning Staples. Spinning Pearls is for anybody, it's for people who are part of the community who support on Patreon. And then the Wool Circle is a specific tier on Patreon, and anything above that. So the Wool Circle and up kind of things gets the Wool Circle. And Spinning Staples is a dedicated Zoom group that meets twice a month on Wednesdays at 12 noon Pacific, the 2nd and 4th Wednesday, and they sit with Rebecca and they actually do the deep dive. It's like the sort of deep dive into the book is Spinning Staples. And then Queries and Explorations is a separate group. We are quite a well-established, the group's been going for a long time. Lots of turnover in terms of people coming and going over the years, and we've been looking at joins recently. We've kind of done a deep dive into joins. So this coming Saturday, we'll be looking at some spindle joins. Dion wanted to look at some plant-based joins, which I thought was fantastic. So all these different places for you to be able to engage with the community and to jump in and participate. This month on Wool and Spinning Radio, which is the audio podcast, you can catch that anywhere that you get your podcasts. We chatted with Suzanne, who's part of our community, and she was talking about the importance of everyday creativity. She did a funded project for a semester, or maybe it was 2 semesters, I'm forgetting now, I'm sorry, Suzanne, where she's a professor, an instructor, a teacher at a local university college near her, and she took this sort of deep dive look at how engaging in creative activity and engaging in creation, creative things, how that affects our daily lives. It's really fun to talk to her, and I really appreciate that she took the time. In terms of the Year of Yarn Design specifically, we're doing that deep dive into Sarah Anderson's book. This is all of the information about all of the different places that you can jump in and participate. On the Wool Circle, not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after, there will not be a stream next Tuesday. I will be off the grid. It is much needed. I will be taking a bit of a break. There are touch points and people in the Slack channel that will be keeping an eye on things while I am gone. And the week after, Rebecca will be looking at spinning over the fold, which will be really fun. It's always really good to go back and look at some of these drafts and some of these different things, because we don't slow down enough sometimes and really do a deep dive into this stuff and kind of remind ourselves of where we've been, where we've come from. Those that are maybe sort of just dipping their toes in, showing them really, really well how to do this stuff and what we're really talking about when we're exploring all of this stuff. So Over the Fold is coming up in the next couple of weeks. And of course, if you have been around for a while, you sort of know that the Zoom groups that happen in the Slack channel are these grassroots groups that have kind of come up from the community for the community. So if you're part of the Slack channel, you have access to all of these groups, and don't hesitate to ever to jump in. When you see a Zoom link in the Slack channel under #general, that means that that group is for everyone. If you see Spinning Staples or Queries, Queries starts in 15 minutes, but there's no Zoom link, that's because it's a closed group. So Spin Group meets every Tuesday. I'm sorry I missed you guys this morning. The kids were trying to get out, go to their camp. My friend was taking them this morning. The kids were just off the wall. Mike's away this week, so it's been a little bit crazy. So I'm sorry I didn't get to see you all this morning. I was really looking forward to hopefully popping in for like 20 minutes, and then it just didn't happen. We have a Zoom group that's also spin group that meets on Thursdays at 8 a.m. GMT. So that is Europe, and for Down Under, anybody who those times work for, that's for you guys. And then on Fridays, Weaving Group and Fiber Prep alternate with each other. Now, what I really wanted to highlight was books. So in hashtag books, we are looking at Fabric by Victoria Finley right now. We'll get together for our first discussion this coming Sunday, March 24th. So join Becca. All of the information, the Zoom link, everything that you're going to need for that discussion is in the hashtag books channel on Slack. So have a look there, and I hope that you enjoy the discussion. I'm hoping I can jump in for at least a little while, but we'll be on the road, and I'm actually not sure what reception is going to be like. So fingers crossed, because I'd really like to hear what others think about the book. I'm just starting it. I'm a little bit behind, but I will catch up. I think that's everything to get us started. So I hope that you guys are really well, and I hope that you're excited about the show, and I will see you guys on the other side. A thank you to our sponsor, Brother Drum Carder. They are dedicated to giving you the very best of carding products with a focus on quality, affordability, and customer satisfaction. They are beginning to build mill processing equipment, so please stay tuned. Be sure to check out the new products on their website and follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Brother Drum Carder. All right, I thought we would start with spinning, and I did finish one little bitty skein from last show to this show. One of the things that I've been working on is really trying to spend more time just spinning for fun. So not having a whole bunch of, rules around what I'm making, or that it has to be a really massive spin and this really big spin. Just trying to be a little bit kinder to myself and getting more time on the wheel and spending a little bit more time doing that. So I did finish a little something over the course of the last week. It's not major, but it's a win. So let's chat about that first. So what I did, I told you guys all about this. So I had taken all of these bits and bobs from my stash, stuff from workshops, some things that worked really well, that coordinated with all of these colors, just a whole bunch of, beautiful sort of purples and greens. They're not I like these colors and I appreciate these colors, but they're not kind of my colors. I don't tend to wear these colors particularly. But I put them through the drum carder several times, and I carded them all together, and I got this sort of, greeny, lavender, purpley mauve kind of, mixed up little mini nests basically. And I sat down and I just started spinning them. I ended up spinning on my Majacraft Susie, on the baby bobbins, or the lace bobbins, I think these ones are called. And it means that the lace flyer is just smaller, there's less resistance as it's turning. It really creates a lovely spinning experience. It's very smooth. When you're running the wheel at like 27, I think on the Susie it's 28-1 is the fastest that I have. And when you're running that really fast ratio, having that smaller flyer going just feels smoother. It feels a little bit like there's sort of an ease to the spinning that it just doesn't quite exist when you've got the slightly bigger flyer. It's a very minute difference. Do not just run out and go and spend like $500 or whatever it is to get these bobbins and this flyer and whatnot. It's just that if you do have them, it does make a really lovely spinning experience. And I had split the little batlings into 8 and 8, so there were 16 in total. 8 and 8. I spun 8 to each bobbin. There weren't a ton, they weren't huge, and I ended up with just this really lovely skein of yarn. So let me move some stuff out of the way here. I just realized I kind of left it all piled up, and then then we can't talk about things. So I can see the camera moved. I don't know why it moved. Maybe it was me. I don't know. Anyways, this is the skein. It came out a little bit fuzzy because the woolen prep, wasn't a worsted prep at all. So a little bit fuzzy and a little bit teeny tiny bit sort of thick and thin in places where, you know, the fibers didn't draft quite as smoothly as the other fibers, but overall sort of a sport weight, really light, very airy yarn. This is washed and finished. I did wash and finish it. I feel like this light on the left here is really harsh. Is it giving you guys really harsh light? I feel like it's really harsh. Let me just drop it a little bit and see if I can warm it up slightly. It just feels really, really harsh. Lots of really hard shadows. See that? Really hard shadows. Anyhow, these are the things that I notice now. 5 years ago when I was podcasting and doing all of this, I wouldn't have even noticed. I would have just continued on, and now I see these things like the shadow here. I see all of that way, way faster than I used to. I'm slowly developing an eye. It doesn't come naturally. It's something I've had to learn. Anyhow, lovely yarn. I think it came out at about 300 yards, maybe just shy. And I don't know what I'll use it for. It doesn't matter. It's just lovely yarn. It's soft. It's funny actually, if you look, this was what I was going to tell you guys about. If you look at the photo here, let me see if I can find it. Do you see in the bits and bobs here, do you see over in the corner there's that dark brown? It was a Wensleydale. It was very, very dark, and it was quite a substantial little nest of fiber, and it is completely lost. It is totally gone in this. I have no idea where it is in there. There is absolutely no darkness in here whatsoever. And I think this little skein, it's very lovely. It's very homogeneous. I have no like criticisms about it in that sense. It's very neutral. It's a medium value. It's not light, it's not dark, it's right in the middle somewhere. But I think that it would have been more interesting if you could have still seen that dark. And conversely, if there had also been some light, so that you would have that contrast of light and dark in the skein. Because as it is, it's really pretty. It's not a showstopper. It's not particularly interesting. It'll be great for something where I need something quite neutral and quite homogeneous looking. I was actually thinking about doing, I just wrote and did all of the spinning and all of the knitting for a new workshop on Sweet Georgia. So I'm giving you guys a little bit of a teaser. There's a toque that I knit for that content, and I'm actually thinking about taking this with us next week. Because I should, best laid plans, famous last words, some time to do some knitting. And I was actually thinking about knitting another one of the projects that I knit for the workshop out of this yarn, because it would be a really good example of where you take such a kind of crazy, you know, bunch of different fiber, and then you end up with sort of this, you know, just a very pleasing neutral. It's not light, it's not dark, there's no contrast in the strands. It's all just sort of medium. So anyways, very interesting. And if you notice, I'll just skein it up again, but if you notice, it does have a slightly gray look to it. The skein is gray. And that's that combining all those different colors. And it does sort of muddy them down and give the skein an overall gray hue. That's that's just the nature of what happens with this stuff. So if you didn't want to lose some of that vibrant color and some of that really striking magenta and some of that really striking green, don't do this. Don't put all of the fibers on your drum carder and put it through your drum carder 4 or 5 times and expect to have preserved any of that, because it's all going to be gone. So yeah, just a word of caution to those who are maybe at the beginning of their spinning journey and haven't experienced this yet. If this is not what you're hoping to create and you want to preserve those colors in those that mixed up little, bundles that I started with, don't card all of that stuff together, because you're going to lose it. So, but yeah, very gray, very lovely. Great finish to a lovely little project. So let's talk about some projects that I have, sort of some spinning projects that I've started. I was really hoping that one of them would actually be finished for this show. And I don't know if I was like on the crazy train or if I was completely delusional for a moment that I thought that I would actually be able to get it done. Like it's barely started. So I don't know what I was thinking that I would actually get it finished. But best laid plans again. There's a theme to the show today. And so let's talk about that next. And I also have some fiber preparation to talk about. So before I get like really ahead of myself here, let's just back it up a little bit. And let's do fiber prep first, because it's really fun to talk about fiber prep, and then we'll go into spinning, and then we'll go into knitting, because that's kind of the sequence of events that our making would normally take if we were seeing one project through from beginning to end. So let's do fiber prep first. I love that you guys were saying, you were talking about the colors in the chat. So Rebecca was saying, I'm surprised that you can't see the pink and the purple. They're basically gone. The overall skein feels purple and green, but it's very gray. And yeah, you've lost all of the nuance of all of the pink. Like it is completely gone. It is not in there at all. What I'll do so that you guys can really see this is I'll take some photos, some macro shots of this skein. It's a beautiful day outside, and I'll find some shade and I'll do some macro shots and I'll post them in the Slack channel, and you guys can see how much of that I lost. And then one of the other things is about that is when you do blend stuff really super well, you do sort of lose some of those nuances of that color. So you guys are really seeing that. Yeah, periwinkle. It's folded into periwinkle. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dion was saying, I'm finding I love these blended skeins. I'm a bit surprised at how most of that bright magenta totally mellowed. It's really incredible. I think it's because of the magenta blending with its complement, which was that bright green. It just completely desaturated. That's what happened, is it all desaturated. So Sam says, I can cope with that muddy. Ditto. And then Pauline says, such a positive perspective. Yeah, totally. So fun. What was the fiber? It was like a jumbled up bunch of stuff. Eve, that's a great question. I never spoke about the fiber. That's usually what we talk about first. It was, there was Polworth in there, Wensleydale, Corriedale, silk blends. Like it was just a mishmash of a bunch of stuff. There was a little bit of Cashluck silk fiber that's like a little bit of cashmere, mostly merino, and a little bit of silk. It was just a Heinz 57 of just a bunch of different stuff. So let's talk about, I'm watching the time, so I do have to make sure I move along. Castlemilk Moorit. Let's talk about this for a few minutes. I didn't want to start at those. There we go. Whoa. Slow down, mister. Here we go. Okay. So this Castlemilk Moorit has been in my stash since 2019. And it was a very lovely, it was a little Ziploc bag of a little bit of a fleece, from Becca, who's actually here in the chat today. So thank you so much. I am finally getting to it. When I was going through all of my boxes to go through and find a whole bunch of stuff that we've been muddling our way through in queries on Saturday mornings with all the joins and whatnot, I came across it and I was like, you know, this is such a small, like it'll card up into such a small amount of fiber. It's not like it's going to be this massive, you know, many gram spin. I really should just, and I've got my drum carder out anyways, which we'll talk about later in the show. I really should just card this up right now while I'm in the moment. I have it in my hand and I can just throw it on. So for those who don't know what Castlemilk Moorit is, it's a rare and sort of decorative breed that they created in Dumfriesshire, Scotland. It's a mix of Manx Lochtin, Shetland, is it soy, S-O-A-Y? That's how you say that, right? Is soy, and Wiltshire horn. And they're not very big sheep. Their fleece is very short. It's sort of 1 to 2 inches. And they're a short-tailed sheep. They do have horns, so they are polled. And their fleece is actually rude or plucked. It's not sheared. So very interesting kind of little sheep breed. And the locks, you can tease them open by hand. You can card them. You can't really comb them. They're not long enough. But I have seen people just sort of tease the fleece and just spin it. What I did was I took all of this stuff, and it had been in a Ziploc bag for the last sort of 5 years-ish, and I wasn't too concerned. It was in beautiful shape. It looked really lovely. I just teased it open by hand. I just gave it a good pull everywhere, in every direction, and didn't really think anything of it as I was sort of pulling it all apart. Very clean. Thank you, Becca. There was like no VM in it. I don't know where this fleece originally came from. But I threw it on the drum carder and I kind of divided the fleece in half. I didn't I didn't weigh it or anything like that, but I sort of just separated it out. You guys, one of the things I've chatted about on the show over the past year has been always having a project that is a fleece sort of in process, because I do have a lot of fleece in my stash and I really need to start getting through some of it. And some of it's small like this, but it's just a matter of kind of getting it out and getting it going. The other thing about Castlemilk Moorit is it is always this gorgeous brown color. Like it really is always this Moorit color, sort of this reddish brown. And because the tips on this were creamy white, I'll show you guys the bats, but they just come out just absolutely beautiful. So this was after the first pass. So what I really wanted to share with you guys was, this is after the first pass off the drum carder. And my drum carder, it is a Brother drum carder. They do sponsor the show, but I bought my drum carder before they sponsored the show. And I have on my liquor-in brush, which is the little drum at the front of the drum carder. My liquor-in is 90 tines per inch TPI. And my Swift, which is the big drum, is 120 tines per inch. I have never regretted getting that on my drum carder. I knew that I would always lean more toward the fine to medium wools, and that I probably wouldn't work with really super coarse stuff. And I found after working on the 72 tines per inch Swift drum carders, they're fine. They get the job done. You have to go a little bit slower just to make sure you don't, end up creating neps and stuff. It was great, but I just wanted something a little bit finer. The trade-off of that is that I have found I need to do more passes. I have found that it takes the drum carder a little bit more to like really open stuff up. The lock pop for me has been a game changer, and that's what I'm using for my Dorset fleece. So this is after the first pass off the drum carder. This is the fourth pass. Look at how gorgeous that is. So this is the fourth pass. This is the first pass. Very different. And then this is them next to each other. So you can see on the far side there, that's after the first pass. You can very much see the locks are still in there. They're not quite opened up, even though I teased them really super well. They're you know, they're getting there, but it's not super nice and carded. And then this, and of course it's downy and it's springy, and it's just, oh, it's just lovely. So that was the final bat. So I made 2 of these bats. And then, so that was after 4 passes. So this final bat was the 4th pass. And then what I did, and I'll actually take you guys to the bigger camera for this. Then I took them for a 5th time, and I divided the bat down into 4 lengths. And so this is actually 1/4 of the bat. And you can see just this gorgeous, gorgeous color. Because the staple of this fiber is quite short, it does sort of tend to want to pull apart. Like as soon as I start to kind of pull stuff, it does start to sort of pull apart. Now I'm trying to decide how I want to spin this. And I'm actually wondering about doing it on my support spindles, because it is such short stapled fiber. And I don't have a project on my support spindles right now. So it might be a really great way to honor this fiber and get this spun is to put it on my support spindles. But you can see that you can't really, I can't really pre-draft it a ton because it just pulls apart because it's so short stapled. But the drum carder did just a beautiful job on it, and it was really fast. To get the 2 bats carded, 4 passes for each bat, and then to get these the 5th pass with the little nests done, it was perfect. And you can see the bulk of this, like it just comes right back. The bulk is really, really good. So when you squish wool down and it comes right back up to the previous shape that it had, it means it's got a lot of bounce and sproing. And that's bulk. So it's got really, really good bulk. Some fibers, you'll squish them down and they stay squished. Not this. So yeah, now I just have to figure out what I'm going to do, like how I'm going to spin it, and do a tiny bit of sampling and do some plyback tests and sort of just go with it and make something some really lovely yarn. I'll probably do 4 nests to one and then 4 nests to the other and create a 2-ply. That's probably what I'll do. It's lovely. Sam was saying that the Castlemilk Moorit, they do go grayer as they get older. That would actually be really pretty, because based on this fiber and how brown it is, like it's that real Moorit color. This is quite true to color, what I'm showing you here. If that's sort of what it looks like here, I can just imagine, like as it gets, a little bit grayer, that would be really pretty. Really, really fun. Lisa says hers went through 5 times through the drum carder and then onto hand cards. I had actually thought about that. Like I know I went to all that effort of making the nests of fiber, but now I've got these like really manageable chunks of fiber. I was actually thinking about putting them on the hand cards and making little roll eggs. So Lisa, you kind of read my mind. I was thinking about that. It would be so easy to take my hand cards with me next week, and I could just make a roll egg, spin a roll egg, make a roll egg, spin a roll egg. Like just talk about like that. You know, you'd be so in the moment, right? You just spin a roll egg, make another one, spin one. Like it would just be, there's no efficiency. There's no making a whole bunch of stuff ahead of time to then be able to spin a whole bunch. Like we're just, to me, projects like that are just totally about being in the moment and honoring the fiber. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Such an interesting idea to turn the bat into a roll egg. I might travel that way too. Yeah, totally, Rebecca. I do that actually more, not so much in the last couple of years, because we haven't done any really big trips the last couple of years where we've been on the road for, 3 to 5 weeks. The last time we did that was 2019. And then we did a couple of 2.5, 3 week trips in 2021, 2022, but we really haven't had like a big chunk of time on the road where we're really traveling and going somewhere since 2019. And a lot of that is the age that the kids are at, because they don't want to be gone for long periods of time because they've got stuff going on here. So it's been a little bit difficult for Mike and I, to do some of that stuff in the summer, because we just don't have that same sort of ability to get away like we did. But one day, I'm not wishing time away. The kids are growing so fast. I don't want to wake up in 10 years and realize that this is over and that it's done and that we're on to the next stage, because I feel like every day we're into a new stage. I'm over it. I want to stay in one stage. I'm kidding, but that's how it feels sometimes. Let's get rid of this. Hang on. Let's get rid of that. Sorry, guys. Okay, so let's go into spinning now. So we've done a little bit of fiber prep. We've finished something, then we did some fiber prep. Now let's start doing some sampling and actually doing some spinning. So this is my Longway Homestead. This is the one that I thought I would have done for today. Let me tell you. The theme of this show, besides being in the moment, the other theme of today's show is short stapled. So let's talk about spinning next. Yeah, Rebecca says, I love your attitude, Rachel. Thank you so much. It's funny. So we had, okay, I'm gonna sidetrack for just a minute here. So if anybody is out there feeling like some days that you just, maybe you don't feel like you're mom enough, or you're feeling disconnected from your kids, or it's just really hard, or it's a hard day, or it's a hard week, or maybe you're going through just a really kind of a difficult patch. We had a huge, massive road bump about just about 10 days ago now, like massive. And I sort of found myself thinking, oh, sweet mother of pearl. And it kind of came out of nowhere, and James made a really poor decision, and I know that he's regretted it ever since. What has come out of that, and being just really trying to keep my emotions in check and be present and really try to listen to what he's saying and hear him and hear his side, and the conversation that came out of it, and also that I've got some women in my life that are unbelievably supportive and are really pro connecting with their kids and being connected to one another, and really trying to put the phones down, put the screens down, and just really trying to connect with one another, and therefore by extension having really deep friendships. I am so thankful for those women in my life. I'm going to get tearful. There's 3 of you in particular that I'm speaking to, and 2 of you watch the show, so and just like, doing life together and doing stuff together. And when I talk to these people about the situation, like the kindness, the walking with, the empathy, like it was just, yeah. And so, I really kind of had to like take a step back and be like, you know what? We didn't want to have these conversations so young. We knew that at some point we would have to. It's really adult topics, and I said that to James, and I said to him, like, just that I was frustrated that we were in this situation, having to have these conversations. And I think my honesty really got him to open up, and it just made me, it really was a good like moment for me to be like, it's okay, everything is okay, it's gonna be okay. And just really kind of realigning and trying to like just get my mind, my head on, again, like, I think sometimes I have the kids with me all the time, 24, like almost 24/7, because of the type of school that they do. And I think sometimes I forget that, sometimes I forget that it's important to just take a moment and take a pulse and make sure that me and the kids, and Mike and me and the kids, that we're all kind of in it together, that we're all still really connected, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain, but I think you guys probably know. And so anybody who's really struggling right now, I see you, I know it's hard, you can do this, spend some time with your kids, it just talk. It really does make a big difference. So Longway Homestead, this is the club that I've been working on for the last couple of years. It got put on the back burner. All of these little bundled things of fiber got put into one of my bins. They got they got stacked and stashed, and I have now spun 6 of the 12. So it's a condensed fiber club where you get 12 different breeds over the course of however long, whenever you sign up. So over the course of the year. And then once you get your 12, that's it. It's not ongoing. Last time we talked about that one, the final one there. This was the 6th one that I finally spun. So this is the Romney. I talked about this last show. So if you want to know a little bit more about that one and how I prepped it and what I did, go back and watch episode 286 and probably a little bit of 285. So I finished those off, and then my goal is to get these all spun this year. So I started playing around. I reached blindly into the bin and I pulled out this, which is the Bowmont. This is not what I was hoping would come out of the bin. I had that massive spin. Eve's here today. I had that massive spin of Bowmont and alpaca that I did a few years ago. I was sort of not necessarily wanting to spin this again right away. Anyhow, Bowmont is the finest, softest British wool that has ever been produced. It is a must-try fleece for all spinners. There's lots more information about Bowmont online. The Wikipedia page is actually quite good. So this is what the pin drafted roving that you get from Longway Homestead looks like. And I'm just trying to find the end. And you can see it's very, very, very fine. It's a little bit bouncy, a little bit springy. It's sort of like it's like a really super fine down. That's what Bowmont always makes me think of. It's like a really fine down. It is very, very soft. The trade-off, however, is a very short staple. It's not particularly long stapled. It's sort of a 2-inch. This particular fleece is about 2 inches, but there is shorter stuff in there. It's really lovely. Now, because it's been pin drafted, there is some sort of, they're not neps per se, but there's some sort of, there's some parts of it that aren't as nicely processed, but overall this pin drafted roving is really quite lovely. It actually reminds me a lot of the Castlemilk Moorit. So when I pulled the Castlemilk Moorit out and I started carding it, I was like, wait a second, this feels very similar to something else that I was just working with. So I sat down and I started dizzing it off of my hand cards again to create that sort of dizzed top again. But this is really, really short stapled. And after the first little while, I was like, I don't know if this is really worth it. Like, I don't know if this really needs that. It's beautifully prepped. The pin drafted roving is really, really lovely. And because of the sort of short stapled nature of the Bowmont, pulling it through the diz, it doesn't feel necessary, and it's really short. Like, you can really only diz a little bit at a time. So you're kind of moving the diz and then you're pushing it back and you're moving it. Like, it's gonna take a long time. But second of all, as I started to spin it, I didn't think that the prep was that much better from what I had been getting when I first started spinning just from the pin drafted roving. So I decided to give it a little bit of a try just to see what else I could create. So on the hand card, I put a little bit of fiber, very light. I wanted to be able to see the carding cloth underneath as I was making these, and I made a little roll leg. So I didn't card at all. I just laid the fibers on and I made this little roll leg and I spun that. And actually the little sample is not bad. So these are all my little samples that I've been creating. They're okay. This is the one that was off the hand card, and you can see how light and airy it is. There's no definition between the singles of the 2-ply back test. Caught myself with the knife. You can see the big cut on my finger there. Didn't stop bleeding for days. So annoying. The thing I didn't like about this after I did the plyback test was I just wasn't getting enough twist into the fibers because they're short stapled and they're fine. So there's tons of crimp in there. And so even though I had my wheel at 28-1, which I always spin at unless some extenuating circumstances with a really, really long stapled fiber, I decided to just sort of leave it where it was, but I just wasn't getting enough twist into it. So when I did that ply back test, it's just not got a lot of twist in it. So I either have to slow down my drafting as I'm drafting back and doing the long draw to get that twist in there, or I have to treadle faster. So I also kind of thought, well, maybe I could throw it on my Lendrum with my very fast flyer, which I can run at like 36 to 1. It's just because I treadle so slow. It's not because these higher ratios are like needed. It's because I treadle so slow and I fall into a rhythm and my feet slow down as I'm going. It's not good or bad. It's just a fact. So, whereas this one was the first one that I did, it's very uneven and thick and thin. And it's just because I was getting a feel for the fiber and I was just spinning. I wasn't trying to spin for consistency or anything like that. This one was the best of all of them, and this was the one that was from the pin draft, from the roving draft, drafted off of the hand card. But I think that's partially because it had more adequate twist. It wasn't because the fiber prep was making much difference. So I'm going to keep playing with this. I won't get a lot of opportunity to work on it this week, and I won't, obviously, I'm not going to be taking my wheel next week. Oh, I always cross lace. Always, Dion. Yeah, that's like just standard in everything that I do. Cross lacing is like one of the only things that can slow me down in terms of like slowing the fiber, like getting enough twist in. If you're curious about cross lacing, I wrote a whole blog post about it years ago, and you can just search on the blog, go to the search bar, cross lacing, and it'll tell you all about that. So yeah, so I'm just going to do a little bit more sampling and kind of get my spinning right before I really delve into this, but I have started spinning on my Susie. I do like the ply back tests that I'm getting. None of these are terrible. They're all good. It's just a matter of kind of fine tuning. Am I just going to spin it from this and not really do much of anything? Do I want to make the little roll eggs, or maybe there's something else? But I think it's one or the other. This is so beautifully prepped that part of me just doesn't want to change the prep because it is so beautifully prepped. So there is that. The Bowmont, the more I looked at it and the more I played with it, the more I kind of, tinked around with it a little bit, the more I was like, why am I doing this? This is just beautifully prepped, pin drafted roving. Like maybe I should just spin it. So that's probably what I'm going to do. So that's the Bowmont, and I'm just sort of working my way through it. I think it's going to take a little bit to spin. It is very fine, and it is proving to be not finicky by any stretch. There's a lot of fibers there in 100 grams in such a fine fiber. There's a lot of fiber to spin. Like the wool, there's a lot of wool here. These pin drafted sort of, I don't know what you call these bumps. There's a lot of fiber here. Like when you unwrap one of these, like that's a lot of fiber. There's a lot of wool there to spin. And that's just unwrapping it once. And these aren't particularly dense. Like you can see through it. But, I was spinning the other night just working on a little bit of it that I had dizzed off the hand card. And, it wasn't particularly fast. Like I was still kind of sitting there spinning after quite a few minutes. So just enjoying the process with this one. And I'll be really happy to have one more of these installments done. I'll be down to the final 5, and I have Shetland to do, Targi. I can't remember what the other 3 are, but those 2 in particular, Anna had included a little note with the Targi especially about the degree of VM that was present in the fleeces that year. And so I am a bit curious about that one to see kind of what I could do before I start spinning to maybe get some more of that VM out, because honestly, it's chock full. So I am a little bit curious. I'm sort of excited. I'm actually kind of excited to start sampling that one and playing with it. So that would be the next one. Swiss roll. Good to see you, Rebecca. I don't think that we'll be here when you get back. That is not the plan. All right, let's talk about some knitting and some capstone projects, because I have made some progress on my capstone. Part of the reason why I settled on wearing this today was because I can put my sweaters on top of this and show you sort of what they look like. So let's do knitting next, and that'll probably round out the show because I'm gonna have to go get the kids. So I'll see you guys on the other side. Okay, this is my capstone project. I'm just going to go to the other camera for just a minute. This is my capstone project. So I've been spinning all of this fiber. It's a, let me go to the other screen actually. This was not the screen that I meant to show you guys. This one here. So this was the yarn that I spun for my capstone. These were the fibers that I used. It was 30, 30, 30 of each, blended with whatever the final weight of the three colors was, the equal amount in white. And that gave me these little nests of fiber, and then I spun them all up, and then I ended up with this yarn. So really a combination of many, many different things that came out in our year of color last year, all the different theory that we were talking about, all the different you know, reflections of like, you know, value and contrast, and you know, contrast of hue, and we were talking about you know, creating mud, and like just it complements. It just the amount of stuff that we learned last year was amazing. And I got to the end of the year, and I had all these like sample skeins. They're all hanging back there behind Diana. And I really wanted to sort of put all of it into a final project. And so over the course of the last few weeks since Christmas, and I'm sorry that the camera's kind of blowing out. Let me just turn it down a notch and see if that helps it to read this a little, oh, wrong one, sorry guys. To read this a little bit better, because it is, there we go, it is struggling a little bit to sort of see this. I've been spinning up, I'm gonna run out of yarn on my second sleeve. So I'm almost done. I've finished the sleeves. I'll show it to you in just a moment. And I've been spinning up a little bit more fiber and drafting a little bit more fiber to create more yarn. Da 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 da. This has come out darker. This is not quite as light as the original yarn. It is just a little bit different. So while I was spinning this and creating these, and I only plied a little bit off the bobbin, this isn't very much, this is only about 30 or 40 yards. It might not even be that much actually. It's a very, very small skein, because I could tell that it was a little bit darker as I was plying. And I was so thankful that I hadn't started knitting the second sleeve yet, because I mean, on the camera it looks the same, but in real life I feel like this is a little bit darker. Anyhow, I'm gonna stripe them. So I'll hold, when I start the second sleeve, it'll be one strand of this, one strand of this, one strand of this, one strand of this, and so on. And I'm hoping that that just kind of blends in this new color and this new yarn, because this does feel a little bit different. So what I'm knitting, what I'm making is called the Field Day cardigan. And it is a design by Haley Smedley. She goes by Ozetta on Ravelry. And I have finished the first sleeve. And the reason why there's still needles in here is because I want to go back and do a 3 needle bind off for the bottom hem. So all down here, I would like to redo this and do a 3 needle bind off, and then I'll 3 needle bind off this, and then same on the other side, same. So let me just move back, hoping this works to be able to show you guys. So I did lengthen the sleeve. It was proving to be a little bit too short. The way that the pattern was written, she wanted me to stop here and create the 3-inch cuff, or the 2-inch cuff, or whatever it is that's called for. I made the cuff a little bit longer, partially because I knew I was going to do the 3 needle bind off. But let me just see if I can get it on here, and then you guys can see. I know I showed it to you last time. as well. But let me just move my chair back. I'm always really afraid when I'm moving back and when I'm moving my chair that the chair is gonna like flip backward and then it's gonna be like chaos. Oh, and let me move my hair to the other side because this is the finished side here. So that's, and my sweater underneath is all curled up inside the sleeve. So let me see if I can pull it down a little bit. So I did knit this with a little bit of positive ease. It is meant to be a little bit bigger. And then it buttons in the front here. I don't know what I'm going to use for buttons yet. I'm not sure. It's not supposed to be super, super, super long, but I did lengthen it by 2 inches. I made it the same length as my favorite sweater that is very similar to this, that's store-bought. And this is the back. I honestly think, I might be wrong, and you guys can call me on it in another 6 months, but I think this is going to get worn a ton. Like just the shape of it, the feel of it, the way that it feels on, how neutral it is, but it's not boring. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about buttons. I'm going to have to look through my stash and see if I have anything. My original thought was to use some white buttons, but now I'm not so sure about that. I'm kind of leaning away from that. I do need 6 buttons because I added length. So I added a couple of extra buttons than Haley's original pattern. But I really like this. And I think the fact that there wasn't a ton of pre-planning, there wasn't a ton of like, should I, shouldn't I, is this the right pattern, is this not, is this like, I just kind of started knitting and sort of thought, come what may, and what'll be will be. And in the, like so far, based on what I have now, and I just love this sweater. I don't know, I think it's a few things. I think it's the culmination of everything that we did last year with our year of color and the capstone idea. It's a culmination of, you know, carding up the fiber and the fiber prep that went into it. A straightforward, easy design that's knit up really super quickly. A construction that fits me, that is very flattering. It's just everything. And it's such an easy pattern. Like, it's not difficult. There's nothing about it that's tricky. The one thing I wish she gave in the pattern was instead of rows, that she gave the number of inches to knit to. That always bothers me when designers do that, but I mean, really, you can figure it out based on the row gauge, and then you just adjust it for your own row gauge, because my row gauge is never the same. But I really like it. So anyhow, Christine, you read my mind. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking some light colored, light wood, really very neutral light wood buttons. My local sewing fabric store, they used to have just a phenomenal button collection. They closed a couple of years ago. So the closest place to get buttons now, I have to go over one of the bridges. It's actually where I work, not the store, but where the hospital is that I work is right next door. Yeah, if I don't have anything in my stash, I'll have to go there and have a look. The other place I was thinking was going down to Dress Sew in Vancouver, because if you have the time and you can root through all of the unbelievable amount of buttons that they have, I could probably also find some other stuff for other projects as well. So that's kind of in the back of my mind. Yeah, thank you so much, Pauline. She says it's beautiful. Thank you. Mother of Pearl, that's a great idea. The color shifting would be pretty. That's a really good idea, you guys. Charlotte and Jessie, thank you. Yeah, so Dion, she says that the bottom of the sweater looks a little bit lighter than the top of the sweater. So if you look here, there's a line across the back of the sweater. And that is exactly what happened. It's 2 different skeins. So if I were to do this, and I think that's what's gonna happen on the sleeves, hence the striping. So if I were to do this again, and I think it's actually worse, you can see it more pronounced, because right before the next skein started, this ended up being so light. So it was almost like there was like this extra light area on the previous skein right at the end before the new skein, which was darker, started. and I'm just gonna have to live with it because it really isn't anything I can do at this point. And I think once it's washed and blocked as well and the fabric has kind of evened out a little bit, it might not be quite as pronounced. I also kind of feel like it's part of just the nuances of a sweater like this. You know, it's just kind of part of the texture. But yeah, it is darker. That's why I'm actually not too concerned about the sleeves, because it kind of goes with the overall feel of the sweater. If I were to do this again and I were to make a project like this again, I would do two things. I would actually blend the fiber, the original fiber that I used. I would actually, I would blend it more. I don't think that I blended it enough, and I think that I, you know, 2 or 3 passes through the drum carder I don't think was quite enough. It probably needed to go through more like, you know, 4 times. And I think that once I added the white, so the 50% white with the 50% color, again, I think I would have blended them a little bit more than I did. And it's not that I was being lazy. I just didn't think that it needed it when I was looking at the little bats and the little batlings and stuff. And then I think the other thing that I would have done differently is that because I used pre-spun singles and they'd already been washed and finished as singles, so there wasn't a lot of give left in them. Like it wasn't like they were slightly fulled. And then putting that with the other fiber that was fresh and freshly spun and hadn't been finished in any way, was lower twist as well. I think all of it just kind of created a yarn that maybe isn't as nice structurally as what I'm used to working with. So there's areas of the yarn where there was the white organic poleware singles were a little bit overspun, and then by plying them, they kind of made it a little bit harder and a little bit ropier. And I think, again, that a lot of that'll wash out in the blocking, but just overall, the fabric isn't as high quality as some of the other stuff that I've made. It's nitpicky, but it's stuff like that that in the future will inform the things that I will do differently to create even nicer fabric and even better yarn, if that makes sense. Because that's how we learn. That's how we get better. And we talked about last show, you know, that normalizing different steps of the process is how you develop your process, and it doesn't become an extra. It becomes just part of what you do. And that's really important. And so there are things about this project. I've been making notes as I go. And when the sweater is finished, I'll share a lot of that stuff with you. There are a lot of things that I would do differently with this project next time. One of the things about casting it on quickly and not really thinking about it and just going is that I didn't stripe the skeins, and I should have. And it just would have helped with overall cohesiveness of the different yarns being slightly different, like you would with hand-dyed yarn. So all those little bits and pieces, they make a big difference. Yeah. I don't know what Dorset buttons are. You guys will have to tell me. Yeah. I'm also wondering if when you're blending fiber like this, you have to blend yes, Dion, that was one of the big things that I was going to talk about when I share the finished object. Yes, 100% yes. When you're doing a project like this, you have to make sure that you've got all of the fiber that you need for the project blended in that first blend. This isn't a project where it really works very well to go back and make more yarn. And I wasn't concerned about it and I wasn't worried about it when I realized that I wouldn't have enough yarn for this project. I was sort of like, it happens, I'll make more, it's not a big deal. It's fine, but this is a project where you really want to make sure that you have all the yarn spun before you start knitting. When you're manipulating fiber like this, you're going for certain colors, and you want a certain look and a certain feel, you need to have it all done ahead of time. It doesn't work to do it halfway through the project. It's not like I'm working from fleece where more or less of it prepped ahead of time is going to make any difference to the finished yarn, because I'm spinning to a control card, I'm spinning to specific requirements for that yarn, it's all one color, it's not as big a deal. But with something like this, when you're blending and you're putting color together and going for a certain look, it's a bigger deal. So yes, absolutely, Dion, I totally agree with you. All right, the last thing that I wanted to share with you is my Winters Beach cardigan. So this is actually almost done. This is from Commercial Yarn. I've talked about this sweater quite a bit. This is out of Estelle Yarn's Eco DK. The yarn is very, very low twist, very, very low spun, like the low twist, very, very woolen. It doesn't have a good twist in it. I've broken it a few times already. I've already had to go back and fix a few things where there's holes because yarn has broken. But I am really happy with how this is coming out. So I'm hoping I can share this with you on. Let me make sure my sleeves don't roll up again. This has more ease in it than my field day that I just showed you guys. And I'm almost done the second cuff. And what I really like about this sweater is you've got the big drop sleeve. I did lengthen the sleeves on this as well. Let me just get my hair out of the way. I'm getting all tangled up in the chair. Oh, all this stuff, you guys, seriously. This is going to block out quite a bit bigger. There's going to be quite a bit of ease to it. And it's got big 4-inch folded cuffs. So you knit for 8 inches. So that I've got the needles. So you knit for 8 inches so that you can have these big folded cuffs. I did make the sleeves longer just because I tend to pull on my sleeves a lot, and I tend to I like longer sleeves. My arms are actually quite long. I am all upper body. My legs are super short. And then you've got this big drop sleeve. Yes, I fixed it, and I went back and I re-knit everything after this saga from last week. And you've got bind off across the back neck there. I did it with an I-cord. I kept the, you've kind of got this like faux I-cord that goes up the front of the sweater. And I actually kept the I-cord going up and around. I'll show it to you after I take it off. And I grafted the ends of the I-cord so that it looks like it continues down both sides of the sweater. I also lengthened this sweater. So I lengthened it to 15 inches because again, with my longer torso, it just works on my body a little bit better to have that little bit of length. If it was 2 inches taller, it would be fine. It would be up here, but I think I would be pulling on it all the time. So just giving myself that little bit of extra length works a little bit better because from my underarm to my waist, I'm 9 inches, and from my waist to my hip bone, I'm another 9 inches. So I've got like 20 inches from here to here. And I just so therefore I just like a little bit longer of a sweater. It works really well, and I think the pockets will be kind of a little bit more in the right spot. Whereas if they were up by about 2 inches, they would sort of be right at my bra line. It's a little bit too high, so this kind of brings the sweater down a little bit. You can pop your pockets in, and you can see there's lots of positive ease. It's big. I can cross it over quite nicely in the front if I want to. This is going to get a ton of wear for sure. And I knit both of these sweaters. I ended up knitting the oh, I'm all caught now. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna have to take this off because I'm all caught on the chair. Oops. Okay. Both of these sweaters I ended up knitting the smallest size, and the only reason was because my stitch gauge was a little bit bigger. So it meant that I knew that the finished sweater would be a little bit like it would be more like the size 2 or the size 3 when they were finished. So it worked really, really well for both of these because of my slightly bigger stitch gauge. So what I did at the back here, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this. I might have to go to this camera instead. So what I did was, as you're doing your 3 needle bind off, this becomes just a straightforward bind off. So what I did instead was I continued the I-cord that you work all the way up the front of the sweater on both sides, and then I grafted it over here on this side. I just have to tie in, I have to weave in the ends. So then I grafted it over here so that it looks like it just continues on down the front of the sweater. So for those who are a little bit, who have a lot of knitting experience and understand what I'm talking about, I did kind of fudge it a little bit so that it would be that nice I-cord all the way around the neck, just to finish it off a little bit nicer. This does have buttons. It is supposed, no, this does not have buttons. The front just is open. So it's kind of nice. I find choosing buttons really stressful. I don't know why. It causes me stress. But this does not have buttons. It's just got the moss stitch going all the way down the front button there. And I have seen people add buttons to this sweater. I'm sure for a lot of people, buttons, it's more of like a functional thing, being able to button it closed at the front. I totally get it. So I don't tend to do that with my cardigans. I do tend to wear them open, mostly because I just get so warm now. I never used to, but I do now. I don't find I'm as cold as I used to be. There was a time there where I was so cold all the time, and I think part of it is dressing more appropriately and wearing more layers, being willing to take layers off, put layers on. But I do really like these kind of open drop sleeve cardigans. I do wear them quite a lot. So yeah, I have done a lot of knitting, Pauline, and I think, thank you so much for the kind comments about this one as well. I think part of the reason why I've gotten a lot of knitting done recently is actually because so James has ended up having quite a lot of schoolwork for term 3, and technically term 3 started last week, so a week ago Monday, and so he's technically into the second week of term 3 right now. And I've been sitting with him and just really trying to be really super supportive, because and just sort of being next to him while he's working on his work, so he can ask questions, and I'm just like available and just there, because I think he's feeling really, really overwhelmed with how much, just the sheer amount of work that he has to finish by the beginning of June. And I've been sitting and knitting, because he doesn't seem to mind if I'm sitting and knitting. He doesn't seem to mind if I have needles in my hand and I'm just sitting next to him quietly knitting, but it seems to bother him if I'm spinning. So I don't know if it's because the wheel is more active and it's more busy, and there's more going on, like I'm physically moving more. So I've just been sitting and knitting, but that's how I made such great progress on both of those sweaters. That's how I got Snow Crocus done last show, was because I was sitting next to him and knitting while he was working. So it's been working really well, because I haven't really been getting a lot of knitting done just in general the last year. It's been really busy. So yeah. All right, you guys, I think that's it for today. We're not going to get to community participation, but it will get recorded this week, and I'll make sure it's released on Friday, because it's been 2 shows now that I haven't gotten to it, and I really, really enjoy sharing it with you. The one thing that I did want to share with you guys actually isn't community participation. It's just stuff going on in our life, actually, to be honest. And I was excited to share it with you. So I am going to share that little tidbit with you. So if you guys don't mind letting me sort of share that, I am going to stop the credits when I switch over. So you'll see the community participation credits just for like a split second. And then but I'll stop them right away. So just 1 sec. There we go. Really quick, sort of as fast as I can to get that jingle off right away. I'm just gonna move myself a little bit. So I just wanted to share really quickly. I try to get to this, every so often and share with you guys for what's going on in our life. And but I wanted to share this with you because on the far side there, on the far right hand side, James had an entrepreneur fair at school, and so of course he had to do something handmade, and they couldn't do food. So he did jewelry. So it was all of these earrings, these polymer clay earrings that he sold, and I wasn't sure how it was going to land, because it was going to be mostly the moms that were going to be like that I was hoping would buy them from him. Anyways, he almost sold out, and he made way more money than any of the other kids did. I was really proud of him. And he designed his bulletin board there, and he got jute cord to string up, and he put his little clips on, and those are all different pairs of earrings that he made. He made 30 pairs of earrings for the thing, and they were there at the fair all day. And I was like, wow, this is a really good experience for kids, because we all know what it's like being at fiber festivals all day and how truly tiring it is, and the noise and the loudness. And I said to him afterwards, I'm like, would you ever want to do anything like that again? Like, in more of a professional sense, kind of more like what I do. And he kind of looked at me for a minute and he's like, you know, it wasn't the noise that was so hard. You guys are going to laugh. He's like, it was being on all day that was hard. I was like, yes, that's exactly what it is. So spoken like a true introvert. And then we were able to go to the home opener for the Whitecaps this year. For anybody who follows soccer or football, depending on the country that you're from, we had a lot of fun, and it was really nice to see the kids be able to go and experience all of that again, because the soccer is life. So this was the kids. They had a massive tournament this past weekend, huge. They both had 4 games. They both won their group. And Nora got MVP, and James's group actually got like a trophy, which was really cool. It was James's first tournament. He'd never been able to play in a tournament before. He was playing with another team that needed players, and so his coach put his name forward and said that James would you know, be a great player for them or whatever. And he ended up being the best player on the team for the weekend. And the confidence boost for him was awesome. He was coming from a top Div 2 team and going to a bottom Div 2 team. And it was great for him to just see that confidence coming off the field, that big smile. He got a couple of great goals. And then of course, Nora's just doing her thing, rocking the soccer life. So thanks you guys for letting me wax poetic a little bit about what's been going on here. It's been very busy. It's been back to back to back to back. And I want to say thank you so much for being here. And I think it's good for you guys to kind of see the other side of our life and what else goes on in our world, because we all have a lot going on, and I love seeing stuff when you guys share about what's going on in your homes and with your partners and your friends and your families, and what you guys are getting up to, where you're going, what's happening. It just helps us all to connect on a deeper level. So yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, Nora. Oh, Nora. So for those who don't know, for those who are new to the community and maybe haven't heard me talk about it, Nora is borderline obsessed with soccer. When she was, her very first practice when she was just turned 5 years old, she goes onto the pitch and you could just see something turned on in her, something shifted, something changed. And she's never lost that. And she comes off the pitch every day and is just... She literally looks like, when she comes off the pitch, like she's living her best life. She is her most happiest when she's on the soccer field. I can say that in all honesty, and it's been cool to watch. So anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful couple of weeks. I will see you in 2 weeks time, the very first Tuesday of April. How is it April already, you guys? For the wool circle. So we're going to have a slightly different schedule in April. We're going to have 3 wool circles. We're going to make up for the one in March that we're missing because of me being away. And then we'll have our regular 2 live streams. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I hope you had a really wonderful morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world where you're watching this. And I wish you all the best for the next couple of weeks. Make lots of things. I can't wait to see them in the Slack channel and on the Ravelry group. I wanted to just really quickly, that reminds me, the Slack channel. There are 2 channels on the Slack channel, podcast chat and newbie questions. If you guys are wondering about anything, or there's a topic on the podcast that you want to keep chatting about after the fact, those are the 2 places to post those things. So for those that are new to the Slack channel and are new to the community, keep an eye on those 2 channels, because that tends to be where the podcast chat continues after the show. And newbie questions is where you can ask some of the stuff that comes up when you're just getting up and running with your spinning, with your knitting, with your weaving, mostly spinning, but also stuff about being new to the community and just wondering about navigation. So anything for just sort of getting your feet wet with all of this, that's where that goes. So have a wonderful couple of weeks, you guys. I will see you next time. Happy spinning, and take care of yourselves. Bye, everyone.